Hope everyone's doing good. We're going to crack on with this week's weekly watch list. As always, we're always going to be starting with the dollar index, right? So, take it back to the weekly time frame. We're going to see currently what the dollar's doing right now. We're really starting to push into this area of resistance in the red here now. Just hopped into the daily just so we get a little bit of a clearer picture. You can see we are moving up. We've broken these highs around about that 94 handle and 93,590, and now we're actually looking to see if we could progress and push back up above. Now it will be interesting if we do actually break above this resistance, because you can see we could start making our way back up to highs around here. Then of course we can push all the way back up to where we started, where you see that triple top. We did start that bearish downtrend. It is very probable that if we do break above this resistance, we could see that 97, 98 handle and then possibly push up to that 100 mark. So, and then of course if price action does start to move in that general direction, we're going to be taking all of that and then we're going to be making sure it coincides with, of course, the trades that we're going to be taking. So I'm going to remove everything from the watch list. We're going to start from scratch and we're going to go through all the major currency pairs based on what we could see on the dollar index right now, and obviously use the correlations to our advantage. So we are seeing that we're pushing up into this area of resistance right now. We're moving pretty well bullishly, I would say, and now we're sort of having a little bit of a stall, you can see here, in and around that resistance. So we're going to watch and monitor to see what happens when price action does come back down to the bottom of this trend line here. I see price action coming back down into a zone roughly around here, and then we could see what happens, see if we do actually start to get some more buyers hop back in the market and then continue to push up. Okay, so I mean the dollar is looking strong. It does look like it's going to remain bullish, but again we're just going to have to play it by ear. So my thoughts are, I do think we could hit that 98 handle if we break this area of resistance, clearing these two highs, and then of course we will look to start pushing up. But that's been the dollar index. I mean, there's nothing too complicated here. I mean, we can see here there is really nothing too complicated. So that's what we're going to be. We are expecting a bullish dollar. We're of course going to be monitoring our fundamentals to make sure that that does still align with our bias, and then of course we're going to take that to other trades. Right, so we start on AUSD. You can see here we've had that nice push, a little pullback, another push, and it looks like it could be a deep retracement into this area of support where you've seen we've had real nice respect from the market. If we go down to the daily time frame and get a better understanding of what's going on. Okay, so maybe even if we were to take, for example, just to throw in a Fibonacci just to see roughly where this was lining up, if we took this low here and we take this high up here and we drag it from left to right, I just want to be able to see roughly where we're lining up in terms of retracement percentage. So you can see here that's pretty much on the button, from the bottom of this low here to the top of this high. And you can see we are coming back down into that 0.382, so it's not really a big retracement, but we are on a daily time frame. So if we go to the 4 hour, you can see we are creating a nice little double bottom here on that area of resistance, and then I'd like to see price action really push back up above to this trend line and then perhaps break. But of course, if the dollar is going to be strong, this is going to push this down. I mean, Aussie US dollar right now is currently, in my eyes, looking bullish, but we are looking to see price action and move lower on this pair if we do see a strong dollar. So right now we're just going to have to play it by ear. You can see that we are struggling to really push away, so we might actually come back down to retest this area of support and maybe perhaps break below. So I will keep this on the watch list right now. You know, just with the dollar index, the way it's shaping up, I do think it's still going to be bullish, and I do think that structurally, Aussie US dollar for me looks like we could still be bullish and we could find some buyers from this area, but the dollar index is of course giving us conflicting information and it's telling us that we could be headed lower. So I'm going to keep this on the watch list, okay? I'm going to keep this on the watch list for now, so we're going to keep that there, and then we're going to move on to Euro Aussie. Again, Euro Aussie, a little bit of a mess. Where you can see we had 3 different options here. We thought we'd maybe come and retrace back down into here, retrace back down into here, or back down into here, but it looks like the middle one was the right option, and we're coming back down into that area of support. Could be a nice double bottom here, but then of course you've got that shoulder, that head, that shoulder. This could be a neckline, we could break below. Strong dollar would mean a weak euro, and that could potentially offer us some short positions if we did manage to break below that trend line, sustain the break, and then we could look to start to work our way back down. But until anything develops a little bit further, we're not really going to pursue anything for Euro Aussie, but I would like to keep it on the watch list, so let's keep that there and move on to Euro USD. Now, with the dollar being bullish, I do like the look of Euro USD to go short back down into an area like this, around about the 1.14 handle. So that is quite an interesting setup. You can see here we might actually come back up, sorry, into this area of resistance, marry up with that trend line, and then make our next leg down into an area that you can see in orange here, just in that 1.14 handle. So again, we're going to keep this on the watch list. We're going to monitor the dollar index, because if that does come to fruition, then it could offer us a really nice setup, and of course risk to reward. So let me just quickly see what's happening on the weekly here. Yeah, we are price action is getting squeezed. I mean, if we go back to the earlier, what I could see here is how price action is getting squeezed here. I do think we're going to get squeezed back down in that area of support, and then we could look to find those buyers to push price action back up. But who knows? I mean, if we go back down to the 4 hour, you'll be able to see what I mean by price action just getting squeezed. You can see something like this. Let's see. Yep, so I mean, we're also so as a nice trend line that's been respected. If we go back out to the daily time frame just to see, yep, you can see price action it's really just getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed, and I do think we're going to finally see it drop all the way down to that area of support before we could then potentially start to get some buyers to pick up the price action. So again, I'm interested in this pair. I'm going to keep it on, and I'm going to be monitoring the dollar index, but I do think we've got a little bit of downward movement to go, and I do think we could start to pick up some buyers later on down the line. When we hit that orange zone. So moving on to EURGBP. For me, I'm leaving it off the watch list. It just looks a mess. It's not really moving too nicely. Although we retraced heavily this big momentum candle, and I do think we could start to see some buyers paying attention to that. We created a nice little double bottom, and we could potentially look to start working our way back up to the tops of these highs. But for me personally, just looking at it right now, I'm not really too interested, and I'm going to move on. So EURGBP, this looks pretty interesting. So we're moving, all right, we're moving. If we go to the weekly time frame to try and discover what the sentiment is, are we bullish, are we bearish, where are we going to move short term, long term? If we just remove all of this, because it's pretty irrelevant right now, I think that this has been the retracement. We've come back down for that second retest for confirmation, and I do think we're going to start to push back up higher. Of course, dollar being weak would push this up. The dollar being weak would, yeah, of course, push this up, but dollar being strong would push the euro down, typically speaking. So, but this has not been the case. So again, more conflicting information to say that the EURGBP seems to be moving pretty well. If we go down to the hourly, you can see here a nice rounding and off at the bottom here. We've failed to really break these lows here. Good strong bullish sign. Rounding and off is a good strong bullish sign. And it looks like we could easily go back up to the tops of these highs here, round about that 13500 handle. So that's currently what we're looking at for EURGBP. So again, I'll maybe keep that on the watch list actually. I mean, it's sort of developed already, but I'd like to keep an eye on it and see where potentially it could be headed next. Let's go to the daily time frame for GBP Aussie. Yeah, again, I mean, we were moving nicely in that bullish channel. We've broken out of that bullish channel, and you can see we might be creating a nice little double bottom here to again retarget the highs. You see, let's just change that to red. But again, for me, just 𝗙𝗹𝗏, it's not really too interesting. I don't think I'm going to be paying much attention to this. It's not really moving how I would like it to move. And you can see here, we're just sort of just getting a mess. Price action showing a lot of wicks. There's no real conviction. So for me, I'm going to take that off all the watch lists, and I'm just going to let that sit. So GBPUSD. Again, more conflicting information. The dollar is strong, but of course GBPUSD is pushing up. Now this could just be a pullback, and then it could coincide with the dollar being strong, and we could make that next move down. But where would we make that next move down? You can see we've broken this nice area of support. It's a real strong area of support. Always look left, you'll be able to see there are nice areas of the market that's been respected before. We've broken down below. After breaking out of this bearish trend line, you would expect more bullish price action, but breaking below a level of this significance, the way that it has broken quite convincingly, you can see here now we're coming back in. So I'd be watching to see what price action does, and maybe to take another leg back down to the downside. But again, we need to sort of work out, if we were going to take a trade like this, where would we potentially be looking to take price action back down to. So if we go, let's say for example, just to get a rough idea, I mean, I'm just trying to throw things together right now to see roughly where we could be headed. If we take that as our low to our high for retracement values, you can see that is at 0.236, sorry. So currently we're bouncing, broke below that 0.236 Fibonacci level. We're coming back into retest, so we could come back down and retrace. My next probable target, if I was to take this trade to go back down lower, I would take it down to 0.382 Fibonacci, which you can see is a nice area of support where we've had those two big wicks away. So if we go down to the 4 hour and we start to really just dissect what's actually going on here, you can see that 0.382 Fib level is lining up nicely with this area of support. We've had that big wick in the form of what could be an inverse head and shoulders if you were to just count the wicks. So let's just zoom in a little bit more, and you can see we had that nice push, and now we're starting to move back up. So it is an area of support that we could potentially look to take targets back down into if we did want to take this trend. But we did break out of a bearish trend, so you would, like I said, expect more bullish movement. But right now, I'm just going to be monitoring what happens in this area of the market to see what it gives us, and then if it does give us a good strong enough signal, then potentially we could look to go short, and that would coincide with the dollar index being bullish. Okay, so I will keep it on the watch list and we'll see what happens from there on out. So GBP/JPY, again, we're finding incredible levels of support here. We've had that bullish trend line that's been respected for weeks and weeks and weeks now. We've covered this so many times. You can see with the touch points that we've got married up here, and now we had that nice area of support. We're just struggling so bad to break below, but now I do think this was like a sort of like a little flag to a continued move higher. The pound's been strong this year. I do think it's going to continue to be strong. So for me, I would favour GBP/JPY breaking this trend line here, and then maybe look to hit that 155 handle, maybe that 156 handle at the tops of these highs. So that's currently what I'm thinking for GBP/JPY. I'm going to keep it on the watch list, and I'm just going to monitor to see what happens when price action approaches the top of this trend line to get a better understanding of what we can do. So NZDUSD, let's break this down from the very beginning. You can see we've got a nice little pennant pattern forming. I do think, again, we're going to see some bullish price action, but the dollar would suggest, being strong, that this would push this pair down. But structurally, from a technical standpoint, you can see that we're pretty bullish, and now we're forming that little pennant pattern back into a nice area of support where you can see these highs here, and I do think we could continue to then move up. But again, I'm just going to be constantly monitoring the dollar index to see, you know, where are we at? Is what I'm saying right? And then I'm going to also monitor how is the dollar index moving versus how is this moving. If we move up 20 pips, how much are we moving up on or moving down on NZDUSD? Are we even moving down? Do we still stay still? And I'm going to monitor all those things, but you have to, of course, be tapping into the fundamentals and making sure that they line up with everything that you're saying. So NZDUSD, from a technical standpoint, I think we're bullish. I think we're going to break out this pennant, and I think we're going to move up into that area of resistance you see in red round about that 0.75 handle. But again, dollar being strong would suggest this pair coming down below. But I mean, just quickly going back to the dollar index, you can see that we did have that area of resistance. We could potentially use that as a push. This is a pullback, and then start to continue all the way back down lower, where you can see these lows here, quite significant lows around about that 90 handle. So I mean, although the dollar is looking bullish short term, it might be that we do roll over and start being bearish, which of course with pairs like GBPUSD, NZDUSD, it would coincide with us moving up. But for the likes of EURUSD, which is showing bearish price action, we'd want this dollar index to really be moving up. So moving on to the US dollar pair. So if we've got USD CAD to begin with, the last few pairs, I mean, it's sort of just messy and choppy. I'm not really too excited by how this is looking, so I'm actually going to leave that off the watch list. USD/JPY, I am very liking the look of this. I do think this is going to be a pull back into this area of resistance here. If we were to just throw an extremely quick Fibonacci from these lows here to the tops of these highs, boom, there you go. So I mean, just looking at that right now, I mean, you can see that we're potentially coming back down to that 0.5, maybe that 0.6. We're currently smack bang in the middle where we had this area here, but I'm liking the look of the Fibonacci's, and I do think we could come back down into an area of sensitivity, something like this, and then look to get that reaction, and then that push up higher. So right now we're pushing up, but this could just be the push, small pullback, and then roll back over before we find the buyers to come back up. And then a target would, an obvious one for me anyway, would be something like this. So that's currently what I would be looking at for USD/JPY. So absolutely, I would keep that on the watch list. It is looking pretty good. And then last but not least, USD Swiss. again, sort of messy, sort of choppy. I'm not even interested just by looking at that. Let's quickly do 𝗙TC_USD. 𝗙TC_USD again looking interesting. I'm going to keep that on the watch list, and this is exactly what we're looking at. A little bit stalling, a little bit messing about. Monday's been a little bit slow. I expect it to be a little bit slow for the remainder of the Monday, but we are looking for entries to get back in this. Of course, to be going long. I do think we've had that real nice retracement, and if you watch this retracement here, just the way price action's moving, we had that push, and then we're sort of flattening out. Now if we look over here, where we had actually broken out for that first initial bullish trend, you see the exact same happened on the weekly. We had that push, flattened, and then we had that nice bullish run up. So if we go to the 4 hour, you see that's just happening on a smaller scale. We had that push, and now we're having that move up. And I do think this is just a small little pullback. We're finding real stall in this area support, and it's going to hopefully provide us with some nice entry signals to take price action back to that 193 handle. And then who knows, we might even hit before Christmas 230, and then start working our way up to 260, 300, etc. But again, I'm not going to marry one particular bias. I'm just going to read what the chart's telling me and act on the opportunities that it's serving me. So that's pretty much all we're going to go through in the weekly watch list. Market recaps back again Wednesday, 7 o'clock. We're going to be extremely active with the videos this week and moving forward for the second half of the year. Planning to close it out very strong, and we hope to close it out strong with you. So again, any questions, please send them over. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe, because you're going to get these instantly before anybody else. So again, until we see you on Wednesday, 7 o'clock for the market recap, we hope everyone has a profitable trading week. We'll speak to you in a bit.